The sequel to the 2019 sci-fi RPG by Obsidian Entertainment, The Outer Worlds 2 is finally here. Whether you played the first game or you're jumping in fresh, we got you covered with what you can expect in The Outer Worlds 2. Although The Outer Worlds 2 is the sequel to The Outer Worlds, it will be a standalone sequel, meaning that it will not continue off of the original story. To set the stage for the universe, The Outer Worlds takes place in an alternate timeline that diverged from our own in 1901, when President William McKinley wasn't assassinated. This means Theodore Roosevelt never became president and the great business trusts were never broken up. Fast forward to the distant future and the mega corporations have essentially become governments and began colonizing space and terraforming planets. The first game takes place in the Halcyon system, and you play as a colonist who is supposed to arrive at the Halcyon colony, but ended up frozen in suspended animation for 70 years when your ship, the Hope, was lost in transit. You're awakened by a rogue scientist named Phineas Wells, who needs your help to save the other colonists still frozen on the Hope and expose the board and the corporate corruption destroying Halcyon. Essentially, the entirety of the game revolves around you getting Phineas what he needs to revive all of the frozen colonists that still reside on the Hope. As mentioned previously, The Outer Worlds 2 will not be a direct sequel. However, that doesn't mean that there isn't the possibility of seeing some returning faces. The Outer Worlds 2 takes us to an entirely different location, the Arcadia star system. Arcadia is described as a wealthy but isolated colony that's somehow even worse than Halcyon, which is honestly saying something. This time you're not a colonist, but instead an agent of the Earth Directorate, which is essentially an interplanetary oversight bureau, kind of like a space marshal. Your mission is to investigate mysterious space-time rifts that are literally tearing reality apart and threatening to cut the colonies off from Earth permanently. The story centers around three major factions locked in a brutal power struggle. The first being the Protectorate, who are a dictatorial colony government obsessed with control and maintaining order through authoritarian means. The second is a megacorporation called Anti's Choice, which, if you've played the first game, you may recognize the name a little bit. Anti's Choice came about during a merger of Anti's Cleos and Spacer's Choice, which were two mega corporations. Since the first game, they have joined as one, and they are now an even bigger mega corporation with military-grade influence that's invading Arcadia. Lastly, the Order of the Ascendant is a religious uprising that views the rifts as manifestations of divine will. They're prophetic scientists who believe these reality-breaking anomalies are part of a higher plan. As with the first game, it seems that your choices will really determine which faction rises to power and how the rifts are handled. Ultimately, this will determine the fate of not just Arcadia, but potentially all of humanity. The developers have described the tone as darker than the first game, however, you'll still get that trademark Outer Worlds humor, but the stakes are much higher and much more serious this time around. Obsidian has been very clear that they learned a lot from the first game and have seemingly addressed fan feedback in a big way. Combat has been completely revamped to feel like a modern first-person shooter. Guns now have better recoil, snappier aiming down sights, and is just more satisfying in general. In addition, there has been major improvements to player mobility. You can now run, slide, and parkour your way through environments. There's vertical combat, climbing, and vaulting, which essentially give you way more freedom to approach encounters creatively. They've also included the ability to play in third-person mode as opposed to first-person in the first game. Obsidian has also implemented major changes to how they approach the world design, as the first game was criticized for having small, segmented zones. The Outer Worlds 2 features much larger open areas with diverse landscapes, which are designed to reward exploration. Throughout these landscapes, you'll find hidden details, secrets, and side content. They've even massively enhanced the arsenal available to the player as well, which includes the return of science weapons and even a new shrink ray. They've added new melee weapons and even new throwables into the mix as well. One of the most applauded things by critics seems to be in Obsidian's RPG DNA and their new overhauled RPG system. This new system includes 12 core skills and over 90 permanent perks to unlock. Adding even more into the RPG elements, they've improved the flaw system, which will now dynamically reflect your playstyle. For instance, Easily Distracted grants you one additional skill point per level, but makes it where you can only add skill points to your lowest non-zero skill. Some other flaws include skipping dialogue frequently and even randomly stealing items. The Outer Worlds 2 launches on October 29, 2025 for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series XS, and PC, and it's available day one on Xbox Game Pass for PC and Ultimate tiers. All pre-orders received the Commander Zane's anti-monopolistic battle pack, which includes themed armor, helmet, signature pistol, and dagger, and an Earth Direct Rid drone companion pet. Obsidian has confirmed a DLC pass included with the Premium Edition that grants access to 2 future story expansions. Specific details about these expansions haven't been revealed just yet. However, based on the first game's DLC, we can expect substantial story-driven content that expands on the main game's factions and mysteries. Also included in the Premium Edition is up to 5 days of early access, Moonman's Corporate Appreciation Premium Prize Pack, and access to the Outer Worlds 2 digital art book and original soundtrack. The Outer Worlds 2 Premium Edition is priced at $99.99 USD, while the normal version of the game is priced at $69.99 USD. Additionally, Obsidian hasn't released a detailed post-launch roadmap with specific dates, so while we know there are 2 story expansions coming, timing and content details remain under wraps for now. Given the first game's DLC came several months after launch, we can probably expect a similar cadence. So with all these new additions, are you planning on picking it up at launch, and what faction do you think you'll side with? Let us know, and thank you so much for watching Game Rant. Be sure to check out GameRant.com for everything related to the Outer Worlds 2, and don't forget to game on, and we'll see you next time.